Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today. This is Alicia with DentiMax Software, and today we're going to go through the DentiMax 18 upgrade so you can see how DentiMax 18 can enhance your practice. So I just want to go ahead and dive right in because time is a precious thing for a dental office. Today we are going to be covering the changes to the DentiMax 18 program, and that is going to include the user interface and font. The home page has a few changes to it. The patient information screen, our patient journal, Appointment Book Pro, scheduler, the ledger screen, the chart screen, claim screen, reports, our document center, DentiMax texting, and we've also made some enhancements to our audit trail and security features. One other thing I did want to let you all know is for those of you who have already upgraded to DentiMax 18, you'll want to make sure that you're on the most current version or service pack, we call it, of the DentiMax 18 program. We'll continue to do minor updates and make minor changes to DentiMax 18 as we streamline the system a little bit further. So you'll just want to make sure that if you go to the Help menu and About DentiMax, that you're on version 18 with date 2/23/18. If you're not, please give our support team a call or send them an email to get that update installed. There's no charge for it if you're already on DentiMax 18, and you can email support@dentimax.com for a scheduled appointment if you prefer to do that instead of calling in. So you guys will initially notice that our user interface has changed here for the DentiMax program. We've actually increased the font size throughout the system so that everything is a bit easier to read. So in the options menu on the left, at the top, in the body of the system, all of that has changed, so we made that larger. We've also gotten rid of some icons that maybe didn't make sense anymore to have next to some of these little buttons on the side, but we did replace the wording at the top with icons up there, so it's a little less cluttered looking. Another thing you'll notice, obviously, we changed the color of our system to be a more up-to-date modern color and visually pleasing. So the gray color is really easy on the eyes, and it's easy to see the white lettering within that gray. So hopefully you guys enjoy the look of the new program and the changes to the font. So aside from just changing to icons here at the top, you'll notice we've added more tooltips, which are those little pop-ups that you get in the program when you hover over something. So if you forget what the order is of the screens here at the top, just take your cursor and hover over that for a second, and you will get a tooltip or a hint telling you what that screen is. Aside from the layout changes on the home page, I wanted to point out that we have beefed up our default home page quite a bit. So if you haven't done any customizations to your home page and you would like our default copy, feel free to let support know. Again, call them or send an email to set up an appointment time, and they could give those defaults to you. So we have a really great section here for helpful resources, common reports that you might run, most of the daily activities and reports people need, monthly reports, insurance management, and recall management. And then over here on the left, web links and DentiMax training videos. This is something that we did change in the DentiMax 18 program. Before you can add web links, but it would just take you to the main website. It wouldn't let you dig in a little bit deeper to a specific page because we ran out of space on the URL that the system would accept. We now are able to have the system accept longer URLs. So if I go to our web links section, you can see here that some of these are short, but other ones kind of go out quite a bit further. So you can actually add specific videos and emails and all of that to the web links section. For example, if you go to MetLife's website frequently, you can add the MetLife login page where you have your username and password already saved and add that right here under the web links section without having to take extra action to get to that login page just once you get to MetLife. So hopefully that helps smooth out and streamline some of the processes there at the office. But I wanted to point out that you can now add specific websites there instead of just a shorter URL. A few other things that I want to show you about the layout of DentiMax 18 is that we did move the settings to the top right corner of the screen. So they're now all under this little cog, which is pretty universal at this point to be a setup screen. So all of the settings are still in your program. They're just under that cog. The help menu is still there as well. It's just no longer a green question mark. It's a white question mark. In the bottom right corner of the screen, there's a few icons that are new. This is the inter-office messaging icon. And to the right of that, we actually have our patient registration kiosk clipboard icon. When you click on those icons, they will activate that function if you do have that service with us. And for example, the patient registration kiosk will pull up your kiosk manager to see what patient registrations you have from the online kiosk or the in-office kiosk that are waiting to be imported or saved to DentiMax. So when there is a registration to import, there will be a little red circle on that clipboard that does tell you how many registrations you have waiting for import. A couple other icons have changed up here in the top. The Document Center, if you have that, is now this DC icon. The RX is now the icon for our e-prescribing notification for any scripts that were written electronically that are waiting for a signature. And if I pull up a patient here by going to my patient list, you'll see we have a few other icons there to get to the imaging software and the film strip for the DentiMax imaging software as well. And this little icon here at the top is for any of you who are using Patient Communicator, which is our partner who does automated texting, automated email service, marketing promos, Google reviews, other types of reviews, online scheduling, all of those features. That is the new icon for the Patient Communicator. You can still use your back and your forward button like you were previously used to, and continue to use that little drop-down menu to show you what screens you have open below the one that you are looking at. So most of the navigation is still the same. Hopefully we've enhanced it enough just to make things a little bit easier for you. Moving right along, I'm actually going to get into the patient information screen. So I'm going to click on patient, just open this first patient we have here, Larry Hughes. So I'm just going to click edit patient from my options menu. Of course, we get the medical alert pop up, so we're alerted of any new items for him today. And most of the items on this screen are still the same. We just spaced everything out again, increased the font size so you can read everything a little bit more easily. One of the things that we did add is, for those of you using DentiMax texting, we have tight integration with our DentiMax texting. So if you click that little texting icon, it actually pulls up the texting for that patient specifically. If I were live with texting, I would have some history right here in this space so you can read what text messages have gone back and forth with that patient. And then you can just click and type right here at the bottom and hit send now to send out a text. Anywhere where the patient's mobile phone number appears, you will have the ability to pull up their text messaging history or go ahead and send them a direct text if you'd like. Also, up here at the top, we did add an option to mark the patient as deceased. And when you do so, it'll automatically add a medical alert to this alert section that the patient was deceased on a certain date. Let me just go choose a different patient so I can show you how that looks. We'll go to John Donaldson here. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark him deceased. You also get this pop-up that asks if you want to remove that patient from the recall list, which if they're passed away, certainly you want to answer yes to that. And then any other active patient list that that patient was on, they will come off of. They do not come off of your patient aging if they do have an account balance, because of course you want to handle that balance the best way you see fit. So either write it off or send a notice to the family member. But when you go to open that patient, I do want to point out that you'll see they're marked deceased as of a certain date. So everybody's notified before trying to use that account that they are no longer with us. I'm going to go ahead back to our Larry Hughes patient. And another option here is the VIP option that we added in. When you mark a patient VIP, there are certain security settings in the program now that will allow you to block certain staff members if you have a temporary person coming into the office from being able to see the patient's contact information based upon whomever is a VIP person. So if the mayor of your town comes and gets dental treatment at your office and you don't want to broadcast their contact info to any people who might be working in your office, you can go ahead and hide that through the security settings by marking the patient a VIP as well. Also, now when you mark the patient not a patient, you will get the opportunity to remove the patient from the recall list, remove any future recall appointments that they may have, and they become essentially inactive. If any of you are using real-time eligibility through Dental Exchange or Apex, under the eligibility section, we now have a keyword search, which unfortunately I can't show you since I don't have a live account, but you'll be able to search for specific categories or items under the real-time eligibility, and you can also print out their real-time eligibility as well now, or print it to the document center if you want to electronically file that real-time eligibility so you have it for future reference. Another item we've added to the patient information screen is under the medical alerts. We now have a space for last updated, so you can see when somebody has asked the patient or verified their medical alerts that are listed here. If nothing changes for the patient's medical alerts, but you do want to update the date here on file as being updated, you're just going to right-click and select Mark Updated as of today, or you can right-click and set the last updated date. In addition to that, under the medications, any med that the patient might be taking, you can go ahead and note it here. You do also have a date modified, which is similar to last updated, but you have a space now to enter the date that you've entered that medication, or what a lot of people associate this with is perhaps the date that patient started taking the medication. For example, blood thinners, it's really important for those of you who do extractions to know how long they've been on blood thinners. So now you have a date stamp that you can add to any medications that the patient may be on. The next tab over under extra info, it still works very much like it used to, but we did move the referral section over to this extra tab, so you can mark the referral source as to how the patient found you, or if another patient referred them over, or if another provider referred them. But many of you may not be aware that you can customize those extra fields that are in the system to track specific data. So if you right-click on any of the words extra, you can click Rename Fields, and there you just put in the name that you want, and that carries over across your whole patient database. So now you have a designated space for the pharmacy that the patient uses and the pharmacy phone number, credit card on file, what time preference they like to be scheduled in, etc. So anything you'd like, you can add to that space and set a default space for that data. The custom tab works the same as the extra tabs, and in my example here, what I like to do is track what insurance the patient had when. So if I get a notice from the insurance company that I have to rebill a claim from 9 months ago, and maybe the patient has changed insurance 3 times since then, I can go back to the valid or end date that I put on file here and see which insurance I need to rebill and go ahead and pull up that claim and rebill it. It's just a place to note it. The system does keep track of that data regardless, but some of you may like to be a little more type A organized and have it specifically on file and in your face attached to the patient info as well. The missing teeth tab is still the same as it was. You can mark the missing teeth here, and that does carry over into the chart screen. And now I want to get into insurance information. We haven't changed anything on this tab specifically, but if we go and open up an insurance plan, you guys will see that down here in the bottom, this is where the insurance notes would previously go into. and we would put in what the frequency allowance is in this space for cleanings and those sorts of things. Well, we've actually added a new tab for frequency details where it's a little more structured. So you can click Add Recall Note for Procedure Code. It'll give you a space to put in a specific procedure code, for example, for bite wings. And then you have a space to put in what the frequency allowance is per that insurance company for the bite wings code. So I'm going to say that this is allowed once per calendar year. And then we can save our changes. But one more thing I want to show you that is new on the insurance plan is that you do now have a space to indicate if that insurance company is accepting ICD-9 or ICD-10 codes if you are an office that's doing any medical billing or if you need those for your dental claims. You have a space to indicate which set of codes will be used here, and it will automatically mark the claim form with the appropriate pointer on the claim pertaining to the ICD-9 or ICD-10 designation. So I just wanted to point that out for those of you who that is applicable to. And we'll go ahead and save our changes. And I'm going to save my changes for Larry once again. And just going to go back into his patient information screen and show you what we've changed on the recall details screen. So if I go to recall details for Larry, there's a few things here that you'll notice. First of all, we added that frequency detail tab from the insurance plan to carry over right here onto the recall details. So if you put in the frequency allowances there, you'll be able to see them here. Not only that, but Larry's a new patient for me, so I don't have any dates of service on file for any of these codes. But if I did talk to his insurance company and I found out that his most recent comprehensive exam or periodic exam was 6 months ago, I can right-click in this space and add in that date so I start to build the history on file for that patient. I'm just going to go ahead and say that he was seen August 15th, 2017. Save that date. I can right-click again and add 2 additional previous dates of service as well. So let's go ahead and say March 2017. And then I can right-click again and add in another previous date of service, which does come in handy for those insurance companies that allow certain codes to be performed in the floating month frequency. So if it's 2 per 12 floating months, you'll need to know the last 3 previous dates of service to calculate if they're in line with 2 per 12 floating months. So when you do add those dates of service in there as a previous date, if you didn't have those dates already on file for existing patients, then that does go into their chart screen as well as an existing item. So it'll be as if another dentist did that treatment, since it's not something that did get posted inside of DentiMax specifically as something you've completed. So it does carry over into the chart screen as well for the hygienist or any clinical staff that are looking for that information in the chart screen. Also here on the recall details screen, you'll be able to see, of course, the insurance notes, and you do have a space to add any recall notes you'd like. For example, Larry likes to be scheduled with his family. Those sorts of details can go in here as well. And that just helps you be better aware as to what items you want to schedule now for their next recall appointment. I do want to show you one other feature pertaining to the recall details, but I need a family in order to show you that. So I'm going to try and pull up the Paige Davis family. And I'm going to go over to her recall details screen. If you do have family members tied together in your system, another function that you'll have the ability to do right here from recall details is to double click and toggle over to other family members recall details screen. So those are hyperlinks that we've added in just so you can, again, assess a family as a whole and get them on the schedule together instead of having to separately exit the screen, pull up the next family member, and then figure out their recall from there. So that's just a quick link that we've added in here as well for you. There's one other item that I do want to point out specifically relating to patient information, and that is that when you create a new patient now, if you're doing it from the patient list, by clicking New Patient, And we'll go ahead and use Paige Davis as an example. I'll click New Patient and put in Davis, Paige, and I think her date of birth was 5/16/72. As soon as I put in 2 pieces of data that match another patient on file, you will get a notification that you have an existing patient with the same name and birth date, or same name and social security number. You want to delete this patient you're creating and go view the other person. Basically, it's warning you that you may be creating a duplicate patient. So I really love that new notification that's in there, because sometimes people don't search for the patient. They just assume they're a new patient if they haven't heard of that person before, but they may already be in your system. And the software will automatically take you to the existing patient on file so you can have a look and verify if they're the same person or not. Aside from that, we have also enhanced our patient journal. So if I select a patient and hit F11, or if I go to the activities menu and go down to patient journal, you'll now be able to see the patient journal for any patient you have selected. The journal is enhanced now because before it was a free-form space that you could do what you want with. Now we've structured it a little bit so you can title your journal entries. For example, if I called the patient regarding their insurance plan, the system will now log the date automatically, the title of my notes, and then in the note space, I'll just add a blurb called patient to discuss insurance, left message that their insurance plan is canceled. And then I can save that journal entry. Later, when I pull up their patient journal, there is a keyword search. So if somebody calls and says, I got a voicemail, something about my insurance, down here at the bottom, you can start typing the word insurance, and it'll search for any note that has the word insurance in the body of the note or in the title. You can also search for the note by date range, and if you do have users set up, user logins to your system, you'll have the ability to search through the journal notes by the user who created them. Another item that we did add or enhance to the patient journal is you can now print out those patient journal entries and have them on file for any reason. So if the doctor wants to review them and he prefers to take paper home with him, then you do have the ability to print those out now as well. The next thing that I want to move into is our scheduler. I'm going to go to the top here and just click Scheduler. And on the schedule, once again, you'll see that we've changed the look a little bit, so everything is a little bit larger. For those of you with Appointment Book Pro, you can still template your schedule for lunch blocks and hygiene and new patients, high production, all of that good stuff. But in the bottom right corner, I want to show you some of the new things that we've added to Appointment Book Pro. So down here next to View, we're currently looking at our resource view, which means we schedule by what room the patient gets seated in, not the provider they get scheduled with. So we do have by default the provider schedule as well. But I'm going to go to Manage Views and then Create a View. And I want to show you that you can set security now to whom is allowed to access the alternate view of your schedule that you're now able to create. So I can have a schedule for the summer months if I'd like, if you guys do shorter days during the summer versus the rest of the year. So this is our summer schedule. And I can change the time intervals. So if we have less staff in the summer, and typically we do appointments every 15 minutes normally, and we want to change that to 20 or 30 minutes, you can set an alternate time interval, a start date to the schedule, and an end date to that schedule. So let's say we're going to begin it June 4th, and that is going to be ending August 1st. You can plug in those dates. And then you can set up what your daily schedule should be. So perhaps Sunday we have no hours, Monday we have no hours, but Tuesday we're going to work from 9 a.m. until 12 p.m. Woohoo! Wednesday we're going to work 9 a.m. until 12 p.m. And then Thursday we're going to work 8 a.m., let's say, until 2 p.m. So Thursday is our long day. and we'll be off on Friday and Saturday. We'll go ahead and add in whatever columns we need to. So maybe we just run off of one operatory during the summer months and perhaps a hygiene operatory during the summer months and nothing else. So you can actually set the hours per operatory on there as well, and then you just save your changes. So in the bottom corner, we now have an alternate view for our summer schedule. So that is one of the things that you can do now with our advanced scheduler. Another thing that you have the ability to do is under template mode. If we double click on one of these templates, I can only allow certain colors in that template. So if you color code your appointment, you'll be able to choose what appointment colors are allowed to get scheduled in that time block that we have here. So I'm going to say just the teal color, click OK, and save my changes. And then when we go to find an open time slot, we can have the system look for an opening just within the colors that we've selected or that are relevant to the appointment type. So I can say look for teal only in the templates that we have chosen and find me an open time slot. And then I could just click find another until it finds one that's acceptable to that patient. So you're able to actually schedule your patient based on the color blocking now. Another thing that we've added to our system relating to the schedule is that when you do go to schedule a patient, for example, Robert Biggs, I'll type in DIG for Biggs, RO for Robert, I select his name, the system will now show you all of their future scheduled appointments before you go ahead and proceed with making this appointment once again. So if they have 5 other appointments already on file, you may want to pause and review those before you schedule yet another appointment for them. Some people do forget that they're already on the schedule for certain items, so it's helpful to be aware of as to how many appointments they do have scheduled all at the same time. In the past, version 13 would only show you their one next scheduled appointment, so we have all of the future appointments listed here as well. Another thing I wanted to point out is if you do make new patients from the schedule rather than from your patient list, you will still get that notification that you're possibly creating a duplicate patient based on putting in that patient name and details. When you go to activate that patient, you'll get a warning that they may be a duplicate patient. I'm going to go ahead and pull up our payment plan list and show you that we have James Davis on a payment plan currently. And when I go to make an appointment for James Davis, of course we get his pop-up, but also we do have a payment plan notification right here on the appointment now as well. Previously, you wouldn't know that he was on a payment plan unless you added an alert to his patient information screen. So now, let me just go ahead and save the changes. When we have the patient on the schedule, any of their appointments will have a payment plan notification inside of that appointment just as soon as you select their chart number to schedule them. From here, I can click on that dollar amount next to payment plan balance, and that is a hyperlink that will take me to that patient's payment plan. And you can now also print out their payment plan statement right from the payment plan screen instead of from the report screen or from the ledger. So we gave you one more spot that you can print that out from. So that's another item that we've added to the appointments on the scheduler. Another enhancement that we did do to the program is for inter-office messaging. That is the little icon down here in the bottom that looks like you're about to message someone, the universal bubble there. In the past, you'd only be able to message a particular computer. Now you can actually change it to where you message a person based on where that user is logged into. So the system will identify which computer that person's at, and it'll send a message to that computer only based on the message that you send them. So patient for room 3 is ready, for example. And you can send that over to Sarah, who's the assistant, and you're not really sure which room she may be in at this moment. She'll get that notification on whatever computer she is logged into. Another enhancement that we did add to the schedule is mainly related to the multi-code functions. And so I'm going to go to my options menu here and click Add from Multi-Code and just choose Initial Adult Visit for James Davis. And I want to point out that the system automatically changed the appointment length for me. So the multi-codes now are able to accept up to 16 individual codes instead of just 8. They're also able to accept site-specific codes. So if you always do sealants on the occlusal surface of certain teeth, like number 3 and 14, and you want to have that as a multi-code, you can put that data in instead of having to manually enter the tooth number and the surface. And you can also set it to default the appointment length. So it's one step closer to automated appointment scheduling by having that appointment length and expanding the multi-codes. I'm going to show you how that translates over to the chart screen and utilizing multi-codes in the chart screen here in just a little bit as well. And for those of you who maybe haven't seen this feature before, we have added a flashing color to the appointment based on the status of the appointment. So you can have the appointment either not flash at all or flash any color of your choosing that's in the system when the appointment is marked checked in, when it's marked ready, or when it's marked as an unconfirmed appointment. So you do have some flexibility there to add another visual cue to your scheduler if that helps you based on a particular status of the appointment, gain some awareness in the office. Moving right along, I wanted to take a break and get into some of these menu items just to show you a few things you may not be aware of quite yet. Under the service code list, and you can get there from your settings screen as well, if there is a procedure code that you no longer utilize, you can edit that code, and there's now an option to mark that code inactive. It won't change the use of any of the times you've used that code in the past, but going forward, it will give you a notification that that code is inactivated. Another thing that I wanted to point out on the service code list, some of your offices may have a standard set of fees for certain procedures, but the adult pro fee, for example, you may have kids come in that, let's say they're 15 years old and they still have a few permanent teeth coming in, or they have really good hygiene, and so you don't want to charge them the full adult pro fee. You do have the option to put in that D1110 code and then add a tag to it, for example, an A or a comma A, and put in adult prophylaxis and create an alternate code that is the same code but with a tag on the end for you to utilize for alternative situations. So some of you may not be aware, but that is something that you're able to do. And in version 18, when that code populates on the claim form, it'll only populate with the D1110 without the comma and without the A on it. So that is a way that you can have an alternate code set in your system. The inactive feature does carry over as well to a few additional spaces. So I'm going to go to our setup screen, and under setup providers, I'll just take a moment here and show you that you can now mark a provider inactive. So if it's a hygienist that's moved on to a different facility, or an associate dentist that's moved on, you can go ahead and inactivate them as well. And you'll see that inactive feature sprinkled in throughout the software and other places as well. Let's go ahead and get into the more fun stuff, which is the chart screen. So I'm going to go ahead and choose our Robert Biggs patient, and I can right-click and go to View Chart, or, of course, at the top of the screen, click Patient Chart, or click View Chart here from my Options menu. We've added several enhancements to our charting screen, and probably what the biggest difference is we've changed our odontogram to anatomically and beautiful, if I may say so, correct teeth. So now you actually have a full buccal view or facial view of the teeth. As I hover over them, you can see which tooth I'm selecting or about to select. And then you also have an occlusal or a lingual view as well of those teeth, top and bottom. So if you prefer to do charting on the occlusal view for those posterior teeth, you have the option to do that and maybe use the buccal view if it's something that's a buccal surface that'll be easily selected here. Another item that we did add to the chart screen is that you can now permanently, quote unquote, dock these tabs over to the right. So all of the tabs that have that little equal sign next to it, you are able to click and drag and move to a different location. But when you would close the chart screen out in the past, those tabs would go back to their original spot. Now they'll actually stay in the position that you left them in when you closed the chart screen. So that is really nice to not have to rearrange the chart screen to your liking every single time. So we've done that in our chart screen as well. Another enhancement that we did add to the chart screen is you have the ability in the treatment plan tab to actually name your treatment plan. So maybe this is our new patient exam, and you want to leave that as is, and then as the patient continues to come in and have new treatment plans created, you can name those implant versus bridge option, and continue creating as many treatment plan options as you need to offer the patient, or you might do this by date of service. It's up to you based on how your practice runs. But you'll notice when I double click on one of those treatment plans, it does load it up here to the top, so I know which treatment plan I'm working under. Workflow-wise, this is a great way to kind of organize yourself and lay out what you think the options are going to be for that patient and kind of have them prepped to tell perhaps your assistant, okay, we're going to offer the patient two different options, an implant or a bridge. Let's go ahead and get ready, and let's start with the implant. So they can open the implant option, and they kind of have a narrow focus as to what the goal is on that treatment plan that they're about to create. Along with that, I'm going to go ahead and just put in under existing restorations. It used to say completed by other, but it is otherwise known as existing restorations. So we've changed that to match existing right here. So it's a little more clear with the terminology. Let's go ahead and say that the patient has some extracted teeth. And we'll just use our simple extraction code. I could put in a few existing extractions here. And then we want to go ahead and make a treatment plan for the patient to do a replacement, which is going to be an implant in this case. So this gets in utilizing our multi-code functions. So we do have a multi-code that I've created for an extraction, an implant, abutment, and crown. So now that the system allows for up to 16 individual codes in one multi-code, you have a lot more flexibility. So if you needed to mark a full arch missing, you can do it now with just one click. But I'm going to show you how we can extract the tooth, place an implant, abutment, and crown as a treatment plan just with one click. So I select the button, and let's go ahead and select tooth number 3. And that automatically plans my surgical extraction, placement of implant, abutment, crown, and crown seat. And now I can very easily put this treatment plan in order as to how we're going to do it. So appointment 1 will be the surgical part. Appointment 2 will be the abutment and the crown impression. And then appointment 3 will be crown seating. So we very quickly are able to treatment plan with those expanded multi-code functions. Another thing I do want to point out in the chart screen is that you now have a hyperlink to that patient's insurance plan. Unfortunately, I chose someone without insurance, so let me back up here for a second and pull up someone with insurance. James Davis has insurance right there, Delta of California, so I can see that. And right here, if I want to get over to his insurance plan quickly because I want to evaluate what we think we might be able to offer him on a treatment plan, I can click on that insurance plan, and it'll open the full plan for me to review the insurance notes, the covered percentages, whether or not implants are a covered benefit, and the answer is no. And I know now how to phrase when I explain to the patient, you know, implants are your best option in this situation, but they're not covered by your insurance. However, we can offer a bridge, or I can get you the pricing for the implant as well. So it just helps you be a little more informed when you're talking about treatment options and what the possibilities are for the patient. I'm going to go ahead and switch back over to Robert Biggs and pull up his chart. Another item that I really like about the new system is if you open up one of the planned items, and let me go ahead and add my treatment plan here for an implant. if I just double click on one of these procedure codes, if you are doing the ICD-9 or ICD-10 billing, you do have the option when you're making your treatment plan to use one of the diagnosis codes and go ahead and assign it to the procedure right from here. And that will follow that procedure over into the patient's ledger and follow it over onto the patient's claim. So if you do it once, it'll stay with that procedure the whole way instead of having to run up and give your front desk the ICD-9 or ICD-10 billing codes. It'll just be attached to that procedure right there. So this is a lot more user-friendly for the oral surgery audience or anyone else doing the medical billing. Another thing, too, that I like to point out in our new system is that you can now mass modify items throughout the software. So in the chart screen, for example, I can mass select items by holding my control button down and then right-click and delete all of those items in bulk instead of, in the past, having to select them one at a time and manage them one at a time. So that is a great new feature just that will save you a ton of time if you make a mistake somewhere or when you're treatment planning and scheduling the patient's appointment to move items in a grouping instead of having to move things one at a time or modify them one at a time. Under the treatment estimate screen here on the left, I'll go ahead and pull that up. And I did want to show you that the treatment plan names do carry over when you're choosing which treatment estimate you want to display for that patient, or if you're pulling up the calculations. You know what you're looking at by the name now when you are naming those treatment plans. Another point to bring up here on the treatment estimate screen is that we have reformatted the calculation for how the system calculates what the patient owes, and that is based on taking the deductible off of the largest charge that does have a deductible applicable to it within the treatment estimate that you have pulled up. Or when it's marked as a completed item on the ledger, the deductible is going to be assumed to come off of the largest item, once again, that got completed that day that is deductible applicable. That also carries over onto our claim screen. So on the claim, we will have the largest or the highest dollar value be the first item on the claim now. So we're trying to get the insurance company to pay you for the biggest item first instead of giving you multiple smaller payments so that it's easier to post your insurance payment and also maximize the patient's benefits. I think it's a lot smarter instead of just going off of the first item you post that has a deductible applied to it. We have not made any changes to our clinical note function. However, we do have a lot more clinical note templates in the system now. So if you would like our default clinical notes to replace what you have on file, once again, you can contact support and they will be happy to do that. Contact them via phone or email. And of course, under X-ray images, if you do have DentiMax imaging, you'll still be able to see those X-rays right here in the patient's chart screen. And then those black circles correspond to how many X-rays you have on file for that patient. You may want to be aware, depending on the version of DentiMax you're on, you may not have this. It will show you how much of the insurance you've used so far for the patient and what their maximum is as well. Let's go to Robert Bigg's patient information. One of the new features that we have added to the system is relating to the patient's ledger. When I add an insurance plan or change an insurance plan for the patient, let's go ahead and say MetLife, put in his subscriber ID number and save my changes. The system will now automatically create a new billing for that patient based upon the insurance they have in the moment that you post the charges. So today we have scheduled for a comp exam and 4 bite wings. In the past, if the insurance changes, you would have had to go to their patient information screen, update their insurance plan, and then to the ledger to update the ledger as well. Now you can just update the patient information insurance plan and then mark the appointment completed, and the system will automatically create that patient's new billing for you with the new insurance. So you no longer have to match the ledger to the patient information screen. I'm going to go ahead and post that charge for today. and take you to the ledger. You can see MetLife is automatically here on that patient's ledger. Out of the $43 we show for today, it looks like MetLife is going to pay nothing because all of that is the patient's responsibility based upon their $50 deductible. This is one of the items that we've added to the system is a tooltip. When you hover over the deductible, it'll calculate what that patient's remaining deductible is and based out of how much they've met so far of the deductible. And the same is true for the maximum as well. If we go ahead and create our claim, the insurance we're assuming in this case isn't going to pay anything towards these items because once again, it's all applicable to the deductible. But once I do this, I'm going to go ahead and post another charge and show you how that goes. So I'm going to click Post from Treatment Plan. And we'll just choose this extraction code, do a couple other items that we have on file, and post those selected charges. And now that we have something that the insurance may cover, you can see here at the top, we're estimating the insurance to pick up $304. Same is true over here, estimating $304, which leaves us with a remaining maximum available approximately of $1196. There's a handy little tooltip. Instead of you having to bust out the calculator, it'll automatically show you the remaining calculation. Let's go ahead and create our claim that we just did for these other items that I posted. And I'm going to go to the claim screen and show you a few new items that we have there, and then we'll get back to the ledger with some additional enhancements. On the claim screen, one of the things we did add is a little sneak preview button right there with the plus sign. You can expand the details of the claim that you have selected in blue, and it'll show you what charges are part of that claim. If by chance there is a charge on there that shouldn't be part of that claim, you can then double-click and open the claim up. And instead of having to go to the ledger and manipulate things there, you can just simply click on the line item, right-click, and hit Remove from Claim if it wasn't supposed to be on that claim form or if it's something not billable. So you have a really quick remove option now that's available to you. Let's go ahead and print out our claims since I'm not hooked up with the eClaim service at the moment. We're going to go ahead and print on the ADA 2012 form, which is the most current form of the claim form. If anybody is using an older claim form, just be advised that as of October last year, you were supposed to discontinue using the older claim forms prior to 2012. And you will have to upgrade in order to get that new claim form to the 2013 or 2018 version of the software. If you have skipped an upgrade, you do not have to buy both to get to the current version. Just pay one upgrade fee, and you will get up to the newest version if you'd like. So if you're getting any claim rejections and you're using an old form, that very well could be the reason why. I went ahead and billed out all of my claims. And one of the new features that we added to the claim screen as well is that if it turns out for some reason the clearinghouse sent those claims and they said you have to rebill them or they didn't make it past the clearinghouse, you can modify them and then just select them all by holding your control button, right-click, update the claim status for all of these claims selected, change it back to ready to bill or paid or whatever status you'd like to use. So that's a way where you can mass edit the claim status without having to open each and every single claim and do them one at a time. So that's one of our new features for DentiMax 18. I'm going to go ahead back to Robert Diggs's ledger. And now that we've created and sent those claims, I do want to show you another feature we have here. When you select the claim line that says primary insurance claim printed, just hover over it for a second. It does show you the total billed out on that claim was $115 in a tooltip, and then the same is true for this other claim. I also want to point out that when I toggle between the two claim lines, it does highlight in blue the items that are part of that claim. So it's just another visual cue and enhancement for you to recognize what charges are part of that claim that went out for $115. Let's go ahead and accept a patient payment. He owes us $89 that we're estimating right now. So I'm going to go to the options menu, click add a patient payment. In the top section here, I'm just going to say he paid me with a check. plug in his check number, and then we have our estimate due of $89. Once again, I'm going to use our quick button and hit pay this amount. It'll automatically apply the $89 payment to the items that we've estimated that money is due for, and I'll save my changes. The next thing that I want to show you here on the ledger is that we've added a tooltip associated with any of the payments that have been made towards that patient's account. So when I hover over this portion of the check payment, it does show me that that $50 is part of an $89 payment made that day. When I go down to this one, it shows me that $39 is also part of that $89 payment made today. So even though we're breaking up the payment into pieces so that it matches the way an EOB would work and what the insurance would estimate is due towards each item, you can see the total of what the patient paid on any given date now in DentiMax 18. That is true for the insurance payments as well. So when you do post the insurance check, when it gets applied to each individual item, you'll be able to see the breakdown in the exact same way when you hover over those insurance payment lines, just like the patient payment lines. Another thing too, in case the doctor didn't do the ICD-9 or 10 diagnosis codes on the procedure in the chart screen, you can also add them here on the patient's ledger for your claim form. At the top of the screen, you can deselect Show All Recent and Open Billings. One of the things that people may not realize you can do is retain the history of the different insurance plans that the patient has had throughout their experience with you. Also, you can create a new billing for the patient in which you're billing a different entity than perhaps their insurance you have on file. So there is occasion where a patient falls down at work and they break a front tooth, and now they have workers' comp paying for their work for replacing their front tooth, but the rest of their general dentistry needs to get billed to MetLife. So now we can create a new billing relating to the workers' comp insurance and have two separate billings on file where you can dictate what insurance you're billing for what procedure. You can now name those billings for easy identification. So if I click the magnifying glass to the right, it's going to open up my billing list, and so far I just have one on file, but I would click Edit Billing, and I could name this Delta Dental or MetLife, General Dentistry, whatever makes sense for you guys to identify that this is the non-workers' comp billing information, and that the charges should go for their regular general dentistry to that MetLife billing number. So it's a way for you to just be more intelligent as to who you're billing for what when there is a situation where you have to bill a different entity in the software. We do have really great integration with CMS, which is Complete Merchant Solutions. It's our integrated credit card processing company, and that is a new service where we built in some payment plan functionality. You're able to now email a receipt out to the patient. I did do a webinar on that a few months back, and so that is part of DentiMax 18. In case you missed it or in case you want more information on how to do integrated credit card processing with the DentiMax program, give us a call in the sales department and we'll be happy to explain all of the details to you. The next item that I want to go over is the report screen. So if we go to reports, we still have the keyword search space here at the top, and then you still have the display at the bottom. All of our reports should now have a display when you select it, so you can get a sense of what that report is going to give you when you go to run it or before you go to run it. Another thing, too, that we've enhanced in this screen is we've actually modified every single one of our reports to have a more uniform look and choosing the same or similar font size. And we have a number of new reports that we've created. There is way too many reports to show them all to you here in this webinar, but I do have a list that I'm happy to send to you. If you guys would like to have that, just shoot an email over to Alicia, ALICIA, @dentimax.com, or Brittany, if Brittany is your sales rep, it's BRITTANY @dentimax.com, and either one of us will be happy to supply you with the new report list. Just a few that I wanted to highlight is we have an adjustment report where it specifically is going to give you a list of adjustments only. We have an age and gender breakdown report that's new. We have an appointment label that's new. We have a billings list, so you can see all the different billings for the patients. We have a claim status report. We have a collection letter if you haven't been using one of those and you need it. We have a declined treatment plan list. So in the chart, when you mark an item declined that you had proposed to the patient, we now have a really great list for you to go off of to see who's declining treatments. We have a non-patient report. Of course, earlier I did mention that you could print out the patient journal as well, so there's a report for that. We have a payment plan list report to show you all of the patients that are on a payment plan in the system. Referred out report for patients that you've referred out of the office instead of just referral sources in. We have a scheduled treatment plan list, and then also a suggested follow-up report by code, and a tax report for your patients, total aging report, unapplied deposits. There are so many new reports that we've added to this program. We'd be happy to go over them with you as well once you upgrade to DynoMax 18, or if you just want to call and chat with us directly about it, we'll be happy to. The main thing about reports that everybody should know is relating to our statements. There is actually a feature under the settings screen now under Setup the Practice where you can choose a default type of statement that you'd like to use. In the past, we actually had 3 different types or core types of statements. The types were based on an anticipated statement if you collect the patient's portion based on the estimate due at the time of service. We had a responsibility statement, which means you collected the patient's portion after the insurance paid. And then we also had a standard statement, which just meant whatever their account balance was, that's how much you would ask the patient to pay. So under our setup screen, under the reports tab that we've added, you have the option to choose what your preference is outside of the anticipated statement. So if generally you choose the responsibility where you collect after insurance is paid, you can set that as your default. Or if you just like to collect the total patient balance regardless of insurance, that would be the standard option. You could choose that as your default. And on the patient's ledger, you are able to run the anticipated statement if that's your preference. We do have a few other options here on how statements look. If you want to show or hide the credit card box for them to pay you, if you want a detailed payment and adjustment information, or you want to hide that and just have a grand total, you can show the statement note detail if that's something that you want to print on the statement or if you want to hide it. And then, of course, the option to print that ledger statement in color based on how you see it. So we've changed that setting there. And then on the patient account, let me just go over to our patient here. Under print walkout, I want to just remind everybody that the walkout statement is designed to only show charges and payments that happen today. So if it didn't happen today, you won't be able to generate a walkout statement for the patient. So just think of that walkout as a summary of today's charges and today's payments. If they come in tomorrow and ask you for the charges and payments from yesterday, you'll want to print out the tax report because the walkout statement won't show anything. Under print statement, one of the changes that we did here, of course, a statement is a bill. So this is printing out a bill for the patient. So if they don't owe anything, printing a statement will not yield any results. But the statements are now on a 30-day timer, which means if you've printed a statement for that patient within the last 30 days and you do weekly statement printing, that patient will no longer get a second, third, fourth statement within the same month. If you would like to remove the timer because you like sending multiple statements within 30 days, our tech support team will be happy to shut that off for you. Just let us know and we can do that. We've changed the look of the statements quite a bit so they're easier to read. They match the ledger very well. You'll be able to see the charge that's here. Any patient or insurance payments is listed right below and listed under the patient payment section. And then the balance per item is listed there as well. Under print ledger, we now have the option, as I mentioned earlier, to print out a tax report, which is mainly something that people want for tax purposes for a given date range. And it'll just print all of their charges and payments, etc., that they've paid in the date range that you've specified. And this is what that tax report looks like. That's just to highlight a few of the new statements that we have in the system and some of the reports that we've added. And again, feel free to contact us for more details on that, or if you have any requests as well. A couple more features here to go over before we conclude our webinar for today. We have updated our security settings as well. So I'm going to go back to the setup screen, and under setup users, I do want to show you that when you go to create a user, you now have up to 10 applicable user options. The system really goes to 99 in the background, but most offices are just using 10 because you can dictate what the security is for those 10 levels instead of 5. So we used to only have 5 security levels. Now we have 10 for those of you larger offices. We've added some new features that you can allow or disallow security settings for, such as viewing the VIP status, being able to backdate transactions, so you can dictate who's allowed to post or backdate, and some additional enhancements under security. The other thing that I do want to show you is under the activities menu, we actually have a database audit that you can run. It's like running the audit report, except for it's a way to run it as a functional window instead of a printed report. So this is a way you can get a sneak peek as to who modified a certain patient, for example, Robert Biggs, within a certain date range, a certain appointment, etc. So I can see here when I select an item, admin is me, and I've modified their billing number, and I added a diagnosis code, K00.4, to that billing. A modified transaction here, I added a diagnosis code to that item as well. So there's lots of different items that you can see in this active database audit. And if you have users set up, you can also filter this by which user did what and who created something new, modified something, or deleted something. So this is a much more user-friendly way to see what's changed in your system and who changed it instead of running the audit trail report. If any of you do have feature requests or things that you didn't see in this program that you would love for us to enhance, please feel free to email that over to features@dynomax.com, and we'll be happy to consider those for the next version. Let's jump back to our schedule, and I'll actually choose Robert Biggs, and we'll open the Document Center. We have added a large number of Document Center items as well as templated letters. Most of them are post-op instructions for different situations. So once again, if you would like our default set, feel free to email support@dynomax.com, and they'll be happy to supply them to you. One of the new features, aside from the look, that we added to our Document Center is, for example, on the HIPAA form, the Notice of Privacy Practices, we can actually add a signature to the bottom of this, and you no longer need to have a signature pad in order for your patient to sign this. So I'm just going to insert the signature into this space down here at the bottom. I'm going to say the patient is signing this item or guardian. And then next to the date, I'm going to insert a merge field for the signature date. So I just double click to use that. Let's do the date section over a little bit. And we'll go to File, Save. And so now I've made this document signable. I'm going to go ahead and click Use Selected Document. And we'll go ahead and hit the Sign button. And you can now have the patient touch sign, or in this case, I don't have a touch screen, so I'm just drawing my signature with my mouse. So let's go ahead and cancel that. I'm going to hit Sign Now once again, and we'll do something a little bit prettier. So you can actually sign digitally without an actual signature pad on file now. And that is the main feature I wanted to show you guys for the Document Center. In case you didn't know as well, you are able to actually print documents to the Document Center instead of printing them out on paper, something that you have electronically, and then scanning it into the system. You can use the Document Center as a printer. Let's say there's something here that we do want to print out for the patient, pretend it's an EOB or something to that effect. You can right-click on your screen and hit print, and the destination here, we can change that and choose the document center as your printer. So it would be listed right in here, center right there, and actually choose to print that to a patient's document center instead of printing on paper, etc. That about sums up the new features for DentiMax 18. If there are any other questions, feel free to contact Brittany or myself directly at 1-800-704-8494. Brittany's extension is 242, and I'm at 207. So whomever you've been working with in the past, feel free to reach out to, and both of us will be happy to help you. Thanks so much. Have a great day.